ready with me while I speak about the downfall of the MCU. As per usual, a lot of these sit down videos all stem from the fact that my friends are kind of sick and tired of me talking their ear off about the topic, and I feel like this is something that's on my chest, on my heart, something I've been thinking about recently, and I know the fact that you clicked on this video means that you're thinking about it too. So MCU fans, stans, DCU fans, DCU haters, this video is for you. Let's take a little trip back to 2005. I know, I was like, how old was I in 2005? 2003, I was 2 years old. So, but in 2005, that's when Kevin Feige, the legend and the icon himself, basically conceptualized this idea of the MCU, right? And he was like, the whole concept or the whole original idea of the MCU, according to Google, because somebody might come and be like, you're wrong, but the whole idea of the MCU was that you would have really good standalone films that were excellent quality, that had connecting threads between them. Right, and I guess you can kind of see that in the first few MCU films, like, you know, Iron Man and like Captain America. The first four movies weren't that great, but you know, whatever, like they were good standalone films that had connecting threads that maybe prompted you to go watch the other movies, but you can also still watch, you know, the Iron Man movies, the Iron Man trilogy on its own. Do you see what I mean? So that was the original idea. And when they were formulating the MCU, MCU ran into a little problem because the most popular Marvel comic characters were already owned by other people. For example, Spider-Man, I think, yeah, they had just released, was it the first Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, right? Or it was around about that time. Maybe it's Spider-Man 2 actually, but yeah. So that Spider-Man is MCU's, or not MCU, Marvel Comics' most popular character, and so they didn't have access to the most popular Marvel character. And then you look to things like the X-Men. Again, Fox had it, they couldn't access those characters. Then you go to Fantastic Four, which is the third most popular Marvel Comics characters or storylines, right? They didn't have access to it. So they were left with the Avengers. And that's not saying the Avengers aren't popular in their own right, and choosing the Avengers as their characters was the wrong decision. But I sometimes question, and I think, what would have happened if they did have access to Spider-Man, and they did have access to the X-Men, and they did have access to the Fantastic Four? Would they have really gone down this storyline that we have now? It's very known amongst comic book fans that the Avengers aren't this wholesome, happy group that is kind of pushed or idealized by the people that watch the Marvel movies. Like, they didn't get along. It wasn't like a family type vibe like X-Men or Fantastic Four. It was very much, hi guys, we're here to clock in because I need you to sort my problem because I don't have the access to sort it out myself kind of vibe. We started off with Iron Man and they kept going and it was excellent, right? But here is where we run into a problem. And I feel like this should have been conceptualized or thought about very early on. The more movies you add with connecting threads, the more characters you introduce, the more films you introduce to this universe, and you make the films connected to each other, the more complicated the connections get. And we see towards the end, obviously Endgame, Infinity War, amazing, but even phase 4 and as we go into phase 5, you can kind of see how the plot lines become so reliant on these connecting threads that the individual movie isn't an individual movie anymore. It becomes, again, part of this larger universe. You cannot, or it's not enjoyable anymore to watch a Marvel movie by itself, right? Or to watch a Marvel trilogy, or like maybe Doctor Strange and then Doctor Strange 2 as its separate entity away from the MCU, because a lot of the plot twists, a lot of the, like, you know, twists and turns and like the character development that should be happening in their individual films are happening in other movies. So when you come to watch their individual films, there's a sense of disconnect. There's a sense of, we're lacking plot, we don't understand, right? Which makes or forces people to go and be like, okay, like now I have to go watch like all of the flipping TV shows that come out every 2-3 months, and there was a Marvel movie yesterday and I haven't watched that and all of that. And at some point, people just lose this connection to the characters they love and the MCU. Say that the reason why the MCU has gone downhill is because we have lost characters like Iron Man or Captain America. But actually, if they stuck with the original true intention, losing characters like Iron Man or Captain America or their storylines ending should not impact the quality of the films going forward. Which is why, my personal opinion, honestly, deadass, I personally think that they really should have ended the line or the storyline of anything that happens before Endgame. Maybe we can stretch it to like Black Panther 2, maybe, but like, but after phase 4, I really think that we should have started a new universe, a new timeline, and focused on a new group of superheroes without having to depend on current plot lines and things that had happened in the old universe. Essentially, what I'm saying is that the Infinity War saga should have been the Infinity War saga, and the multiverse saga or anything else that came after phase 4 should have been something completely separate, and no decisions that had been made or plot lines that had been made in the Infinity War saga should have impacted the following saga. So if you're not a comic book fan, you might not be used to this concept, because I know some people are thinking like, how could we just get rid of a whole universe? But it's very common in comic books for if they want to start a new storyline, they want to, you know, go and explore the characters in different ways, or they want to shift focus to a different storyline. It's very common to just reset the timeline. Like, it's there doesn't even have to be a reason to reset the timeline. The storyline ends, they're like, okay, cool, we're done here, we're done, hands off, wipe your hands, right? Like 20 something movies in the MCU now. Like, that is so many if you don't include TV shows and everything. And now we started bringing in the Netflix shows like Daredevil and Iron Fist, and they're apparently all contributing to the MCU and where the MCU is going. And it's just become a lot of effort. Watch MCU movies, I remember all the time something will happen, I'll be like, how does this make sense? Because in this movie that I watched that is obviously still connected to this movie, this happened, so this wouldn't have made sense if this could happen, or if this character existed, why didn't they come and help here, and blah 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 blah. Like, it creates so much mess. Leads me to point number 2. And honestly, cue rant. Guys, do you know what I discovered the other day while I was scrolling through Twitter and TikTok? The current writers and directors, and even actors who play MCU characters or comic book characters and roles, particularly in Marvel films, recently have not read the comics. And I'm not saying like the comics are a very large universe to get into, but I'm talking about the writers. The writers go into these films and they take pictures. I shit you not, guys, Google it. They take pictures and they create a cool storyboard and like, okay, let's create a cool storyline without taking any reverence or inspiration from storylines from the comic book characters. And it's very clear that the writers don't understand the nuances and the depths of their characters that they're writing. They are just following the superhero formula. Oh, we did this in this film, let's try and apply it to this film. Oh, girl power for Captain Marvel. When actually, if you look at her characters in the comics, it doesn't really follow that line, and it creates the sense of fakeness and the sense of reproducibility, because you're not taking time to think about the nuances and the stretches of the character. Even outside of the comics, you're just thinking of how do you make a really cool looking movie, right? And it's just so evident in films like Madam Web, Ant-Man Quantumania, The Marvel. Like, it's just so evident that they haven't taken time to think about the characters and the comic books and the comic lines and like how these characters interconnect. And I will say that the most successful superhero films of recent, for example, the Batman, the Spideyverse series, have all been films that really go into depths and nuances of what it means to be that superhero, taking inspiration from the comics, the comic book lines, famous comic book characters from all different comic book lines, and really making sure to embody that in the character that they're represented in their respective film universes. And that is why it has been so successful, because now it's not following the superhero formula, it's following the character, it's following the character's journey, and how can we best express the mental state and how this character is going to develop over the course of the multiple films in the trilogy and in other people's films. Final point, I'm probably like the end of my rant, you know, before so many people come and attack me, because the last time I posted a superhero movie, I got death threats. Not superhero movie, a video just talking about superheroes, or like, yeah, this is bullshit, go yourself. And I deleted the comment and it made me really upset. But I don't have this fear right now because nobody watches my videos. So anyway, I would say that when we found out that Disney now had access to the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, I fell to my knees and I almost cried, because those are some of, you know, childhood like characters. Like, I loved them, I loved watching the cartoons, I loved reading their comics. These are things that I think are staples, and I always used to complain like, damn it, why aren't they in the MCU, why aren't they in the MCU? Now they have them. It took so long, and they teased us. They had the audacity to tease us in what's her name, Scarlet Witch's series, and then in the Doctor Strange movie, to tease us with this idea of having these characters in the MCU and then not include. They had Dr. Xavier. and they just didn't. It's just so disappointing. I know that we are getting a Fantastic Four movie next year. I don't think I'm gonna look forward to it. I honestly just think Fantastic Four should be a standalone, that the MCU should not try to connect it to its multiverse saga. I honestly think that it should be a really cool film set in the 60s, really exploring this family dynamic, some, like, you know, just really getting into the depths of the Fantastic Four as 4 characters. But I don't think the MCU is gonna do that. Okay, I genuinely think that people are getting really tired, and it's very clear that people are getting very tired of the same superhero formula movie. And it's not saying superhero movies are bad, it's just that if you're following the same reproducible formula to try and create action and generate excitement without thinking about, okay, who is this superhero that I'm tackling? What is the storyline behind this superhero? What does this superhero act? How does this superhero think? What does this superhero do? What in their comic book lines can help inform this character, right? Rather than thinking, oh, this picture looks cool, this is what the character will do, blah 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 blah. Like, just not even thinking about the character itself, especially if it's a titular character like the X-Men. How do the X-Men interact with each other? Why do they act the way they do? How does that inform what's going to happen in the film, right? Why does Spider-Man act the way they do? Why does Captain Marvel act the way they do? You know, not thinking about, you know, what is going to make you the most money or what has made the most money. I understand enterprises and studios are this money making process, but they ain't making money, so that means they've got to change something. I genuinely believe, and I feel like I'm gonna have to do a second part on why the downfall of the MCU is going to be the reason why the DC entertainment universe in the next decade is going to flourish. Because clearly from the films that we have seen being released so far, if we distract Blue Beetle was enjoyable, but nonetheless, from the films that we have seen so far, and from the James Gunn interviews that I have been seeing, and just the conversations I see happening amongst people that are writing for the DCU and the directors and things as such, and, like, you know, the Batman 2 and the people they're casting and the way they're going about the plot, that it's so mirrored and entrenched in comic book lore. It is going to take all of the lessons from the downfall of the MCU and do it right. It's going to take the fact that the characters and how the characters should act and what we expect them to do based off of their storylines, they're going to really take it and they're going to run with it. Something that the MCU has failed. I hope they're going to ensure that they can work as standalones. And I really think James Gunn is learning from the spiraling down of the MCU and is really going to create a beautiful DCU. But that's something for another video. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed my rambling. I think I'm gonna do more rambly videos because it's fun to talk about my thoughts, and sometimes it actually helps me straighten out my thoughts. And I remember talking to my friend. She messaged me and she was like, your vlogs are so boring, but your sit down talking videos are so entertaining. So this is for you, Ria, because I also know you're a Marvel fan, and I hope that you enjoyed, and I want to hear your thoughts. I want to start a discussion. I'm going to be in the comments every day checking out what you guys think. And if you like this video and you like these types of videos of me ranting about certain things, I think my next one, I'm watching Avatar The Last Airbender, and I am a huge Avatar The Last Airbender fan. I'm watching the Netflix series, so give me a like if you would like me. Give me a like if you would like me to watch the series and then come back and talk about some of my thoughts so we can have a dialogue. Anyway, me and my half done makeup, I'm gonna wash it off now because it served its purpose of distracting me while I do this video, and I hope you love this video. Yeah, I'm gonna finish my makeup and then take a thumbnail. But anyway, guys, see you in my next video. Bye bye.